Boxers, trainers, fight fans, members of the gym, welcome to another fresh session of the No Decision Podcast. It is Wes Ibarra alongside Jared Joy Villapando. All right, Joy, everybody has showed up tonight. We have a 5 round session here. I'm ready to work these people out. Are you?
Let's get started.
All right, ding, ding, let's go. We recap last night's fight between Joseph Jojo Diaz Jr. and Shavkat Rahimov over the zone that took place at Fancy Springs Hotel in Indio, California. Controversy heading into that fight, Joy. JDJ was 3 pounds overweight at the weigh-in and lost his title at the scale, but made the second day weigh-in. But the rules are in California is that if he is overweight, he cannot get the title even if he wins.
Right.
As for Rahimov, he has controversy himself. In one of his last fights, he was seen taking a substance within the round break that looked like to be smelling salts. But of course, the governing body of that fight let him have the title because there was inconclusive evidence that that was a smelling salt, though his team claims it was a adrenaline.
Right.
So we have the fight. Jojo Diaz Jr. was trained by his dad, and Rahimov was trained by Freddie Roach, the legend.
Right.
And what did we get? We got a 115, 113 Diaz, 114, 114, 114, 114, a majority draw.
Right.
So this fight was for the IBF Junior Lightweight title, and unfortunately, that belt stays in Indio, in nobody's hands.
Right.
So, what do you think?
Yeah, it was a great fight actually. It was pretty much back and forth throughout. So pretty much throughout the entire fight, I thought that Diaz landed the more cleaner shots. He was a lot more. He landed pretty much very powerful shots. The difference was that Rahimov was a lot more busier. He wasn't landing the clear shots, but he was landing. He was still landing, and again, right? Like Rahimov is throughout the entire fight. He was able to start timing Joseph Diaz, and that was everything, right? There was a moment where Joseph Diaz looked like he was in trouble in the middle rounds, but I gotta hand it to Joseph Diaz. He was able to dig himself out and start to really land more powerful shots towards the end. But you gotta, I mean, there's a lot more. You gotta pretty much give it all to just knock down Rahimov. He is one tough guy, and Rahimov also has punching power, right? He has punching power. He has knockout power. But again, Diaz has a pretty good chin. It was a very good back and forth fight, and yeah, I expect a second fight between these two.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't keep my own personal scorecard this time, Joy, and I think that was one fight where I probably made a huge mistake in not doing that. But then again, it could be a blessing because that would have been a hard fight to score anyway. The zone had it at 115, 113 for Diaz.
And then
I thought it could have gone either way. So the 114, 114 I felt was pretty justified. But yes, I could see him running it back in the near future. And hopefully this time the silverware or hardware can be taken by somebody.
Yeah, there was a lot more. There was way too many rounds that could have either gone either side. And so it was tough to judge.
For sure, for sure. But yes, to recap, JDJ, Jojo Diaz, now 31-1-1. As for Shavkat Rahimov, 15-0-1. So hopefully they get a chance to meet again. I will say one of the highlights of that card was Beck the Bully. Joy. Oh my gosh. He ding-donged his man.
Yeah, after pretty much a month, right, Wes? A month of pretty much. Well, the other guy had a month of preparation. Bektemir was pretty much ready since December. So, yeah, it's going to be, well done to both fighters. Although, Bektemir was he was a lot more fit, and he was pretty much anticipated to fight during this time. So,
for sure. And with that win, Bektemir Melikuziev moves up to 7-0, and we'll see if he can get his coming out party in the near future.
Absolutely.
Okay, going on into round two. We got a fight in the middleweight division.
Mm.
Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade against Liam Williams in April. This is for the 160-pound WBO title held by Demetrius Andrade.
Right.
So, Joy, does this fight springboard Demetrius Andrade, assuming he gets through Liam Williams, into the Canelo sweepstakes alongside Caleb Plant?
Short answer, yes. We have to remind ourselves that Liam Williams is not a pushover, right? His pretty much his last 5 fights have ended in knockouts. Um, and yeah, I mean, I will say this, right? Like, they're quite different. These two fighters,
Sure.
they're quite different. Although they do have the same, very similar fighting styles. Uh, Andrade is more aggressive. He will
Oh,
try
hell
to
yeah.
he
The
will
hard charging middleweight.
he will try to overpower you early on, and he doesn't care. The only thing that really I have against Andrade is like he's too aggressive. It
Oh
doesn't
my
seem like
gosh.
it doesn't seem like he pays attention to defense a lot, and I mean, this is pretty much predicting in the future. But when you're going against a great counterpuncher like Canelo, you gotta make sure you gotta be careful what you rush Canelo with, because other than that, his defensive skills are okay. He does some stuff that he uses his reach a lot, so he kind of just uses his reach to kind of pull fighters away from him when they're getting too close. And other than that, like the timing is okay. He timed uh, his last fight. I forgot Luke Keeler. Yeah, he fought Luke Keeler, and he timed him, but Luke Keeler didn't have any head movement. So yes, I do think this is gonna bring Andrade up, but Liam Williams is not a pushover. So we'll see.
Oh, absolutely. I was actually watching some of that tape with Boo Boo and Keeler, and it looked like for a while, Boo Boo Andrade wanted to uh, try and kill him early,
Yeah,
and then it looked like a UFC grappling match.
yeah. I mean, the
Because,
first punch, right? Knockdown. First punch,
yeah,
knockdown. So
oh no, for sure. But I'm just saying, like, as the fight went on, it kind of looked like a UFC grappling match.
yeah, yeah.
But of course, that over aggressiveness can turn against you at some point. And I wanted to add, like, let's say there's an eliminator, a quote unquote eliminator. Let's say, like, if Andre fought Plant, if Andre
Mm,
wanted to use that style against Plant, Plant could dance.
right.
Like I
Exactly.
said in a previous episode, he's got moves for a white dude.
Exactly.
So, I mean, but we'll see.
Right. Liam is
Best
more
of
of
luck to
a
both men.
yeah. Liam is more of a stationary target. So this is gonna be a good fight. We'll see who wins out.
Oh, that's that British style. I'm
Right.
telling you,
Exactly.
Those British fighters, they'll stand there
Right. They
and give
won't
you a
back
false
down.
sense of security.
Exactly. They won't
But
back up.
once you make a mistake, that literal plant to the ground approach can hurt you.
Exactly. I think Ryan
All
Garcia knows
right.
that now.
Oh, absolutely. I think the only British fighters we know that don't plant themselves are AJ and Tyson Fury.
You're right.
But that's a different conversation for another day. Round 3. So we're going to talk about the middleweight sweepstakes here. We got a wild card. So some guy on the outside looking in, and that is Anthony Dirrell. He has a fight against Kyron Davis on the 27th of February. So that's a couple weeks away.
Right.
What does this fight mean for Anthony Dirrell?
Ooh.
And does he belong in that sweepstakes?
I'm gonna say no. I think Anthony Dirrell, he's up there in age, right? He's 36, and his last fight he got knocked out by David Benavidez, right? And so, and Kyron Davis isn't exactly a top tier. I would say he's not a top tier fighter that if Anthony Dirrell wins against Kyron Davis, it's pretty much it's expected, right? If you lose against him, then maybe it's time to rethink what's gonna happen next. But yeah, I don't think Anthony Dirrell. I think he had his chance. I think he had his moments, and he's had a pretty good career. But he's fighting some really young guys, really powerful guys, and yeah,
For sure. Um, for me personally, he would still be on the outside looking in.
right,
a lot of things are going to have to happen ahead of him in order for AD to get that shot.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that I want AD to do good in this fight against Kyron
Oh
Davis.
yeah.
I'm actually going to watch that fight, and well, as we should. And I'm looking forward to see what he does.
Right. Absolutely. And fun fact: Anthony Dirrell was the guy that beat Yildirim, which Canelo will fight next. So
Yes, we've discussed that in an earlier episode, and yes, it's all starting to come together,
right. It's
right?
coming in a circle. Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe it's the same day.
Yeah, I believe so too. Yes.
So that day is going to be loaded of boxing. Actually, in the next couple of weeks, will be loaded with boxing. Um, and of course, before I get into my next round, because chances are this label is going to be putting their chips on this guy to get himself back in there. But this coming weekend, Joy, on the 20th, Adrian Broner is fighting. Oh my God. Good old about billions,
Right.
about business
Right.
is back in the ring. But that's a different conversation for another day.
Right.
So shouts to Adrian Broner for getting back in the ring. We'll see how he does. But he is a PBC fighter.
Right.
And there are rumors of a Fox and PBC divorce.
Hmm.
To be honest with you, Joe, I liked watching PBC on Fox.
Okay.
So because it gives a lot of viewers that don't have cable television
Right.
or satellite television
Right.
A chance to watch pretty decent boxing
right?
for free.
Exactly.
So I wonder what's going on. I haven't really looked too much into it, but there's a rumor going around that they're looking to split. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, like you said, Wes, like boxing should be free, right? Back then, boxing was free, and that was when it became the peak of it, like the height, like the peak of its, popularity. And we're slowly getting back into that right now. CBS is starting to host a little bit more fights, but, or I mean, yeah, also ESPN, but yeah, I think this is. I'm interested to see where PBC goes from here, right? If they're gonna go to like a pay per view, I doubt it. I doubt that they're gonna go for a pay per view kind of format. But yeah,
Well, I mean, they have
right,
for their top tier fighters like Deontay Wilder
right,
and Manny Pacquiao.
right, exactly. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's tough. Like when you convert everything into like a pay per view, it's gonna be tough. Like, when Top Rank was just purely for HBO, right? Like, you gotta have HBO to watch, pretty much Top Rank fighting, and so yeah,
Well, yeah, now Top Rank has gone into ESPN
right,
Plus.
exactly, and so
So yeah,
so
and
yeah,
the
I mean,
Zone is on its own with
right,
Matchroom.
exactly, and so I mean, I'd like for them to kind of join ESPN or like any other networks that are willing to, but
Ooh.
it seems as though like it's kind of like that discussion that we had, right, Wes? Like a lot of these boxing promotions, they're gonna have their loyalties to certain brands, certain aspects of like the business, and when you have different promotions that are in partners with different networks, then it becomes troublesome when you're trying to make a super fight, from one superstar, from the other promotions to the next one. Like a point example, HBO and Showtime. It didn't seem like they could work together just because of pretty much Mayweather Promotions and Top Rank. So, and or even Golden Boy, right? And so yeah,
Well, I can't see them joining ESPN
right,
because that just wouldn't make sense on PBC's part
mm,
to be on the same network as a competitor.
mm,
So I will disagree with you there. I could see them aiming for an over the top. So that would be like a Hulu
okay,
or,
ooh,
something like that because I don't know if HBO is willing to get back into that because
mm.
they have an over the top too with HBO Go.
You think the Zone will probably
No,
reach out? Okay,
no, because they already have Matchroom.
right,
So I can't see them doing that.
mm,
and Golden Boy.
Right.
So
So
I can't see them. I can't see them doing that. I could see, like I said, Hulu or some other over-the-top service
right
providing that. But it wouldn't hurt to give the people access to these
to these fights.
profile fights.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We got to follow it. I mean, Fox has over the top too with like Fox Sports and all that. But
Mm,
I understand. Uh, I understand. We got to make money,
right.
and sometimes partnerships can make more than others. But we'll see. We'll be monitoring this partnership as it unfolds. But okay, last round. Let's touch them up. Have a good time, because we're almost home. I want to revisit a classic round, everybody. So in a previous podcast, I asked Joy, and I provided some insight on our favorite fighting game. Joy, you said it was Fight Night Round 3. I said it was the newer UFC games.
Mm,
So like UFC 3. But even though there's already a 4 now.
right.
But not too long ago, EA Sports announced that college football is coming back.
Mm,
And fun fact about me, I love those games.
right.
Because you get to try and figure out how you can make a NFL ready program with players that are young and you don't have to pay them.
Right.
And of course, you all can argue, oh, there's already someone like that. It's Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney. I was like, yeah, well, I don't think Dabo Swinney would do all that great in the NFL. Neither did Nick Saban.
Right.
And then we have yet to see how Urban Meyer does.
Right. Right. We're gonna find out.
And then Pete Carroll did okay.
Right. He did okay.
He has a Super Bowl, so we can't really say too much there.
Right.
And then the Harbaughs. And
We could see John Harbaugh back, right? So we'll see.
for sure. And of course, everybody's rallying around Cliff Kingsbury.
Right.
But okay, enough about football. That sparked a lot of debate on the internet, or conversation on the internet, everyone. Boxing internet, on whether EA Sports should have an additional title release or reboot in the form of Fight Night.
Ooh.
So, Joy, should we want a Fight Night round 5 or 2020 something? Or even a newer game. It doesn't have to be EA. What if 2K or something like that
Ooh.
made a boxing game, or Codemasters? I don't know.
Right.
Some kind of company that makes sports video games and has a history of making a decent enough, franchise. Should we want that back?
Question real quick: is EA the one that created the UFC games?
Wow. You really asked me that.
Well, I'm saying right
Yes.
because they are okay. Cool. Because I mean, right? Like, I've heard about the UFC games being pretty good, right? And so, if they're the ones that's gonna remake the Fight Night, series, then they should also put as much attention to that boxing game. But yes, to answer your question, yes, I do want pretty much a boxing game that I could pick up again and enjoy boxing, for just playing right now. Of course, like, if you're looking through the series of the Fight Night series, there wasn't a lot of improvements like throughout the game. They stayed pretty conservative to what the game, pretty much looked, the aesthetic pleasing. Now I'm just gonna be a game reviewer, but to answer your question, Wes, like, yes, I do want a Fight Night round, or Fight Night 2021. I think it's going to be called. I think they're leaning towards more of that naming. But
There's no guarantee it's coming out this year, man.
right, exactly. But
So
it seems as though they're going through that naming convention because they're probably going to release one every single year, right?
Well, I'd hope so.
Right.
I think that was the time lapse between 3 and 4,
Right.
or maybe it was 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, yeah, boxing it's not a rapidly evolving sport, right? So you're not going to see, like, it's not a team sport, right?
Right.
So you don't have to worry about new uniforms or stadiums or anything like that or new
Right.
coaches,
Right.
right? But yeah, I wouldn't imagine that it's like maybe every year or every
Right.
2 years,
Right. I mean,
right? And then just updated boxers every year,
right. And
and
yeah,
maybe
to
one or two new venues.
yeah, I totally agree with you, Wes. And like, boxing itself as an art, hasn't had like a complete change, right? Like a lot of the techniques that a lot of boxers still use, they were being used in the 80s, in the 90s. So, I mean, as fighting goes on, of course, we're still going to develop more techniques to, to pretty much be a better offensive fighter, a better defensive fighter. But they're not coming in like waves of like every year where there's a new offense coming into the NFL. It's
Exactly. That's
right,
that's the point I'm trying to make. That's
right,
why I just looked it up. There was a time of 2 years in between UFC
right,
3 and UFC 4. So it's like, yeah, you don't have, like I said, you don't have to worry about new uniforms, new
right,
stadiums, new coaches,
right.
offenses, right? I mean, you might have to worry about new fighters that just blew up on the scene,
Mm.
but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
um,
mean, a span of 1 year, nothing can. I mean, there's some changes to boxing, like belts being exchanged, but generally, it's still the champions will still be the champions in like 1 or 2 years. But like in that 2 year period, there's a lot that could happen.
for sure. I will also say, like, maybe the only change then would be like branding,
Branding.
right? So Fight Night Champion didn't have like Cleto Reyes gloves or anything like that.
I knew you were gonna
But
say
now,
that.
like, so it's like, yeah, you can all of a sudden have Cleto Reyes gloves or Venom
Right.
or
Rival.
Fly or whatever it's
I
called.
believe
No,
rival
they
is
had
already.
Rival. They
Yeah.
had Rival. FNC had Rival, but like I'm just
Winning.
saying,
I
like,
want winning.
or winning, yeah, and then you could have like, I don't know, Anta for the Pacquiao,
Right.
um, and some other crazy looking Under Armour for Anthony Joshua,
Right.
you know, and then of course maybe just that you don't have to get into the complete detail of like getting, the zone or like anything like that, but and then you got to get the voices. Which voices do you want?
Right.
You know, so it's a lot of moving parts. I understand. It's not
Joe.
like UFC where it's pretty much the same people almost every time.
Well, let me ask you this, Wes.
So,
Who would you want to voice the game? Back to Joe Tessitore?
no,
Okay.
I would want I would want a group of Larry Merchant, Max Kellerman.
Mm.
Um, yeah, Joe Tessitore can come back, fine, but it would be like rotating. It would
Rotating,
be at
right.
random.
It's not just one. It's not
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so one set of commentators, commentating on some backyard fighting.
Right, or any of the Showtime guys, the PBC folks like
Right.
Lennox Lewis, Sean Porter. Even though you could have him fighting in the game, so you could. So that depends.
That's a
But
glitch. That's a bug. If Sean Porter is commentating a fight, one of his fights.
sure, and I can imagine them like also just having like uh, the corner interviews too.
Oh yeah, that'd be
But then
fun.
again, you would have to get the likeness of the trainers to do that.
Right.
Uh, or and then if there was like a career mode, you could take part in post-fight interviews.
I know one guy I'm gonna pick. Now I'm always gonna pick Jack Stein because he's free.
Well, okay, but I'm just saying, like, because you know how like 2K in their basketball games they incorporated that you could
Right.
talk in post-game interviews. Like,
So you're
imagine you could fight. You could fight like you could talk after a fight,
right.
and then like the option could be like, oh, call out fighter A, or be humble, or be indifferent,
Right.
or no comment, whatever. I don't know, but yeah, that's cool.
Right.
And I want to hear what everyone else has to. I would personally welcome a fight night or whatever boxing game back. I don't play video games as much as I used to, so chances are I'm gonna get ding donged when I fight in
Well, yeah.
those games if they ever come out. But I
I'm
would like
definitely
to
gonna pick it
hear
up.
for
If it
sure.
happens, yeah.
But for everyone that showed up tonight, what would you want if it comes to a boxing game? Let us know. Let us know in the comments. Let us know on social media. However you connect with us. And there is one game before we close out that I did want to bring up. It's this game I came across while doing a Google search. It's called Esports Boxing Club. I
Mm.
believe it's a Steam game, and they
Right.
have a lot of WBC fighters on there too.
Mm.
It looks pretty nice. I haven't really looked into it that much, but there is like a boxing game that is pretty reminiscent of who's fighting now
Right.
and has uh, an interesting roster. Oh, and also if EA, if anyone that works for EA is listening, include women,
Absolutely.
historical and now. So like uh,
Layla.
Taylor,
Layla
Layla
Ali.
Ali, Clarissa Shields,
Clarissa Shields.
Michaela Mayer, and
Absolutely.
yes, Joy. Yeah, you know how I feel about Michaela Mayer. So, uh, but anyway, yeah, Esports Boxing Club. It has a lot of good fighters on there, like Connor Ben.
Mm.
One of the interesting rosterees I saw there was Shane Mosley Jr. Um, Eddie Reynoso is a trainer in that
Okay.
game. Lou DiBella is one of the promoters that you could use. It's like, oh, it's interesting for a Steam game too. So
Cool.
I wonder if that's ever going to take off. It looks like a startup, but
I'm interested
yeah,
now. I'm probably gonna check it out.
for sure, we can definitely revisit that in a future podcast. But I wanted to put that out there, uh, and that is the end of our training session, y'all. Very quick 5 rounder. Uh, you know, ain't nothing to it, and yeah, Joy, do you have any closing remarks before we close up tonight?
Cool. No.
No. Okay. Well, everyone, thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed the JDJ fight. Looking forward to Boo Boo Andrade. Put AD on your watch list.
Mm.
Follow the Fox and PVC relationship, and let us know what you think about a classic game. And with that, we are closed now. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. As a matter of fact, we do appreciate you spending your Valentine's Day with us anyway, so happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
We are 3-0 with broadcasting on holidays, Joy.
That's true. That's true.
But if you do want to hear from us somehow, some way, give more love to us than we deserve, check out our other podcast, the Run It Back podcast, where Joy and I talk about the landscape of Formula One. And this week we covered Lewis Hamilton staying in the sport, Fernando Alonso getting into an accident, among other breaking news from the past week in Formula One. But with that, I'm Wes Ibarra. He's Joy Villapando. Have a great night.